Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Troy Charles, and here are your top stories. Thunder Bay police are investigating the circumstances surrounding a death after a body was discovered in the commercial area on Main Street Sunday morning. Police were dispatched to an area in the 400 block of Main Street just after 10 Sunday morning. A resident had called 911 about a possible body in the area. Police arrived on scene and located the body of a deceased male. Thunder Bay Police Service Major Crimes Unit are now investigating the incident. We'll have more on Monday's edition of the News Hour. And 2020 has already been an extremely difficult year for a multitude of reasons, and for Thunder Bay's the Bobrowski family, the problems keep piling up. A leak to their underground service line has left their John Street property in disarray, and they want to warn others in hopes of avoiding a similar outcome.
I think if this is happening under other homes and they're leaving the water on and they're not telling people to shut that water off, they could be compromising other people's homes. And I'm sure nobody wants what we're going through to happen to them.
After noticing unusual pooling in his backyard in late July, Ted Bobrowski contacted the city. A city crew came by and found a leak, but it was under his house. A new water line was eventually installed, but since then the situation has gone from bad to worse. To fix the leak, the contractor had to dig a 15-square-foot hole in the yard. Bobrowski says it now looks like a war zone. Even worse, he now fears the structural integrity of his house has been compromised by the ground being saturated.
I don't know what's happening to our home. I fear the worst because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the whole front of my property sink. And I don't know, am I going to end up with a big sinkhole here? Is my house going to be totally destroyed? It's a brick home and it's never had a crack in it. And now I'm seeing cracks and I'm seeing separation and I'm going, and every day it gets worse and I don't even want to look at it anymore. You know, I'm not counting the cracks anymore because there's just too many to count.
The leak was directly under the front corner of the home, which is now showing cracks on the inside and outside, with the ground clearly lowered and unlevel. Bobrowski said after the city crew left, the connection to the city water pipe was left open, and after an unrelated sump pump issue, they ended up with a flooded basement. And if that wasn't enough misery, 3 dreaded pinhole leaks developed in water pipes in the basement, causing ceiling tiles to collapse. Bobrowski says the incident offers some lessons for other Thunder Bay homeowners.
Under the house, and even after we discovered the leak, we still kept the water on because we didn't know that it was affecting our house. And nobody told us to shut the water off. So I don't know when all the damage occurred, and I don't know how long that water ran under there, but I just know there's structural damage to the house. And people need to be aware of this, that if they have a service line running under their house, their service line might not be covered under their policy, and to look into that, and that they might be damaging their homes if they don't shut that water off immediately.
Bobrowski is currently trying to figure out the family's next move, with concern growing that their insurance won't cover the structural damage done to the home. The push to rename one of Dryden's main streets is ramping up once again after a video which has gone viral was posted to social media earlier this week. Adam Riley reports.
The number one blowback thing I get is it's just a street name. It's just a word. What does it have to do with me?
When Lloyd Napish walks around Dryden, he often comes to one of the city's main arteries, Colonization Avenue, which to some is innocuous, but for him and many other First Nation residents, it is a reminder of some of the darkest periods of Canadian history.
We've dealt with stuff like the Indian Act, residential schools, the 60 Scoop. My own mom was actually a residential school survivor. So I've seen the effects of colonization firsthand, and I live the effects of colonization every day as well.
Colonization is a noun that by definition means the action or process of settling among and establishing control over the Indigenous people of an area. With that in mind, Napish has released a video which has since gone viral with over 21,000 views, calling on the city to change the name to better reflect the community. It features several Indigenous and non-Indigenous speakers, including elders, a representative of the local Chamber of Commerce, and the region's assistant Crown Attorney.
Peter Keane was one of the first big supporters. He was kind of willing to go on record, and then he was amazing in the video. And after that, it slowly and very organically, names started to pop up in my inbox.
Dryden isn't mutually exclusive in this situation. There are several communities in the Northwest that either have or had a roadway called Colonization, including Kenora, which dropped the title in 2017, Emo, and Fort Frances, the latter of which was involved in a petition to change the name in 2017, which did not succeed. But Napish, who recently joined a new city-driven working circle, is hopeful Dryden might make the change this time.
The amount of views, the amount of shares on social media we've got, and the support that I've seen is it's been great, and from what I see, it's only building.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
Medical Officer of Health for the Kenora and Rainy River District says recent spikes of COVID-19 cases in Manitoba are something to be monitored should area residents decide to travel west. Dr. Kit Young-hoon says that many of the cases have been localized in the Prairie Mountain region west of Winnipeg, and while the border between Ontario and Manitoba remains open, she's recommending residents who do decide to travel out of province to take extra precautions, including avoiding public transportation, using hand hygiene, and looking at case numbers in the province to decide when and where not to travel to.
Though, for the most part, the numbers in the other health regions are still small, so the risk across in certain parts of Manitoba is still considered low. So at this point, we're not recommending against travel, but that people need to consider this risk when they're doing non-essential travel.
Trends Hair Studio and New Wave School of Hair Design teamed up today for the third straight year to provide free haircuts for kids living in the Fort William First Nation. From 11 to 4, kids from Fort William First Nation poured into the school located on Victoria Street. The haircuts were performed by Trends stylist and students from New Wave. Anyone from kindergarten to grade 12 was eligible for the free haircut, with many taking advantage of getting a fresh look before school begins in just over a week. Appointments were booked in advance, with customers waiting in their car until being called into the studio. Parents waited in the car during the appointment to promote social distancing. Stylist Cosmo Manella says he's received nothing but positive comments from the customers.
Very happy. Last year and the year before they were happy, so I'm sure they're happy again this year. And then a lot of customers last year and the year before were happy that we did this too as well. It's a good opportunity for our business. It makes me feel great, and no one in Thunder Bay's done this, so I want to keep on doing it.
Manella has seen a steady increase in number of haircuts performed over the 3 years and is planning to hold the free haircuts once again next year. RibFest 2020 has wrapped up after another successful weekend. While the new drive-through style provided some challenges, event organizers say the weekend was a massive success, with lines never slowing down from the event's beginning on Thursday. Avery McRae has the story.
Well over 3,000 cars made their way through the CLE grounds for the drive-through edition of this year's RibFest. Since the events kicked off Thursday, Rivers saw a steady stream of traffic from 11 to 8 each of the 4 days, with one of the 3 vendors running out of ribs twice over that time. Customers happily waited in line for nearly 40 minutes, all for a taste of their favorite ribs, pulled pork, and chicken. Ribs Royale owner Gus Sakillis says it's a weekend he won't soon forget.
We are extremely happy with the turnout. We're actually going to be talking about this for the ages. I know 10 years from now or whatever it may be, we're going to be looking back and we're going to be like, remember the summer of 2020, and Thunder Bay will be number 1 on that.
Totally amazed and overwhelmed. Thunder Bay has supported this event. We've heard lots of positive comments. People are liking the drive-through model. I know Halfway Motors, John Trevisanuto put out his own little Facebook questionnaire today. Okay, traditional or drive-through? So we're going to see. People, throw your comments in. What do you think?
Early estimations from the Ribbers say sales were only down 25% from previous years. The weekend did provide some challenges, with Ribbers having larger orders due to the drive-through rather than customers walking from booth to booth grabbing a bite at each vendor. Much of the weekend proceeds go towards Our Kids Count, and Executive Director for Our Kids Count, Catherine Hughes, says the successful weekend will help fund their programs.
We're worried without the regular version running that we would have a lot less profit or proceeds from it. So for us, it means the programs run. It means our families and children get to have the programming they're used to.
Other activities that brought in the revenue for Our Kids Count weren't happening this year, and yet we've had over 30 community sponsors that have continued to support the event, and that's meant a lot to us.
Behringer says the weekend event would not have been possible without Halfway Motors and the near 30 other event sponsors. Avery McRae, TBT News.
Mike, sometimes golf, it can be a little slow, maybe boring perhaps, but that wasn't the case today.
The BMW Championship ended